Khun Sa, the notorious Opium King, was a product of his turbulent times. Born in Burma's Shan State in 1934, his early life was steeped in the world of opium. The region, nestled amidst rugged mountains and dense jungles, had long been a hub for poppy cultivation and the illicit drug trade. Khun Sa, of mixed Shan Chinese heritage, found himself thrust into this shadowy world at a young age. His father, a local Shan chieftain, played a role in the opium trade, exposing Khun Sa to the business early on. This early exposure proved to be a potent influence, shaping his future ambitions and entangling him in the intricate web of opium production and trafficking. The seeds of ambition were sown, taking root in the fertile ground of a region rife with lawlessness and opportunity. The political landscape of post-World War II Burma further fueled Khun Sa's rise. The newly independent nation grappled with ethnic conflicts and political instability, creating a breeding ground for armed groups vying for power and control. Khun Sa, shrewd and opportunistic, saw a chance to exploit the chaos. He recognized the potential of opium to finance his ambitions, providing the resources to build a private army and assert his dominance. The early 1960s witnessed the emergence of Khun Sa as a military leader. He formed the Shan State Army, SSA, ostensibly fighting for Shan autonomy from the Burmese government. However, the SSA's true objective soon became clear control over the lucrative opium trade in the Golden Triangle. Khun Sa, a charismatic and ruthless leader, rallied Shan fighters and local warlords to his cause. The SSA quickly gained notoriety for its military prowess and brutal tactics. They secured key opium-producing territories and smuggling routes. Khun Sa's forces grew in size and strength, funded by opium profits. His reputation as a formidable warlord spread, attracting those seeking fortune and power. The Cold War cast a long shadow over Southeast Asia. Burma became a pawn in the geopolitical chess game between the United States and the Soviet Union. Khun Sa exploited this rivalry to his advantage. He forged alliances with both sides to secure weapons, funding, and protection. The United States, embroiled in the Vietnam War, saw Khun Sa as a potential asset. They believed he could disrupt North Vietnamese supply lines. The CIA ignored Khun Sa's opium trade for strategic gains. China also saw value in Khun Sa, providing weapons and training. Khun Sa accepted support from both sides, fueling his rise. The Cold War and Western heroin demand helped his empire flourish. The CIA and Chinese backing consolidated his control over the drug trade. Khun Sa became a major player in the global opium trade. Khun Sa's relationship with the Burmese government was complex and often adversarial. While his SSA initially fought for Shan autonomy, it quickly became clear that Khun Sa's primary objective was control over the opium trade, not political independence. The Burmese government, grappling with its own internal struggles, lacked the capacity to effectively combat Khun Sa's growing power. The Burmese military launched several offensives against Khun Sa's strongholds, but these often proved ineffective. Khun Sa's forces, well-armed and familiar with the terrain, waged a successful guerrilla war, exploiting the dense jungles and mountainous terrain to their advantage. The Burmese government's efforts to eradicate opium production were similarly hampered by corruption and a lack of resources. Despite the ongoing conflict, there were periods of uneasy truce and even cooperation between Khun Sa and the Burmese government. At times, Khun Sa used his influence to broker deals between the government and other ethnic armed groups. He also reportedly provided intelligence to the Burmese military on his rivals in the drug trade. These shifting alliances highlight the complex and often opportunistic nature of relationships in the Golden Triangle, where allegiances were fluid and self-interest reigned supreme. By the 1970s, Khun Sa had emerged as the undisputed opium king of the Golden Triangle. His Shan State Army controlled a vast territory stretching across parts of Burma, Laos, and Thailand, encompassing prime opium-producing regions. Khun Sa's control over the trade was absolute, from the poppy fields to the clandestine laboratories where raw opium was refined into heroin. His rise to power was the result of a combination of factors: his ruthlessness, his strategic acumen, and his ability to exploit the geopolitical climate of the Cold War. He understood the power of alliances, playing various factions against each other to his advantage. He also recognized the importance of logistics and distribution, establishing efficient smuggling routes that moved his heroin from the remote jungles of the Golden Triangle to lucrative markets in the West. Under Khun Sa's leadership, the Golden Triangle became the world's largest heroin producer, accounting for an estimated 60% of global supply. His organization, run like a multinational corporation, employed thousands of people, from farmers cultivating poppy to chemists refining heroin. Khun Sa's empire, built on the back of the opium trade, had become a major force in the region, wielding significant economic and political influence. Khun Sa's opium empire was a sophisticated operation, encompassing every stage of the drug trade. He controlled vast poppy fields, providing farmers with seeds and supplies, and purchasing their harvest at set prices. The raw opium was then transported to clandestine laboratories hidden deep in the jungle, where skilled chemists transformed it into heroin. The refined heroin was then packaged and stamped with Khun Sa's trademark Double Lion Globe brand, a symbol of quality and purity that commanded a premium price on the international market. The heroin was then smuggled out of the Golden Triangle through a network of routes, often traversing porous borders and corrupt checkpoints. Khun Sa's distribution network stretched across continents, reaching major cities in Europe, North America, and Australia. He employed a vast network of couriers, middlemen, and criminal organizations to move his product, often using creative methods to evade law enforcement. The profits from the heroin trade were enormous, estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars annually, making Khun Sa one of the wealthiest criminals in the world. While Khun Sa amassed immense wealth and power, his opium empire had a devastating impact on the people and environment of the Golden Triangle. The region, already impoverished and underdeveloped, became increasingly dependent on the drug trade. Farmers, enticed by the promise of high profits, abandoned traditional crops in favor of poppy cultivation. This shift towards opium production had disastrous consequences for food security and the environment. Forests were cleared to make way for poppy fields, leading to deforestation and soil erosion. The chemicals used in heroin processing contaminated water sources, poisoning the land and harming human health. Moreover, the easy availability of heroin led to widespread addiction in the region. Drug use fueled crime, violence, and social breakdown, trapping communities in a cycle of poverty and despair. Khun Sa's empire, built on the suffering of others, left an enduring legacy of social and environmental devastation in the Golden Triangle. As Khun Sa's power and notoriety grew, so too did international pressure to bring him down. The United States, now deeply concerned about the heroin epidemic ravaging its cities, placed a $2 million bounty on his head. The DEA launched Operation Tiger Trap, a major effort to disrupt Khun Sa's drug trafficking operations. China, facing international criticism for its support of Khun Sa, also began to distance itself from the Opium King. They were eager to improve their international image and secure trade relations with the West, which were threatened by their association with the drug lord. Facing mounting pressure from both the East and the West, Khun Sa's position became increasingly precarious. His once impenetrable empire began to crumble as his smuggling routes were disrupted and his lieutenants arrested. The Dragon and the Eagle, once rivals for influence in Southeast Asia, now found themselves united in their opposition to the Opium King. In 1996, in a move that surprised the world, Khun Sa surrendered to the Burmese government. He claimed that he was motivated by a desire for peace and a wish to see the Shan people granted greater autonomy. However, many believe that his surrender was a calculated move to avoid extradition to the United States, where he faced life imprisonment on drug trafficking charges. True to suspicions, Khun Sa was never extradited to the United States or tried for his crimes. He lived out his remaining years in relative luxury in Rangoon, the former capital of Burma, under the protection of the Burmese government. The terms of his surrender remained shrouded in secrecy, fueling speculation that he had struck a deal with the Burmese authorities, possibly involving the handover of assets or intelligence. Khun Sa's surrender marked the end of an era in the Golden Triangle. His empire, once the world's largest heroin producer, was dismantled, and his network of smugglers and traffickers disrupted. However, his influence over the region's drug trade did not entirely disappear. Many of his former lieutenants and associates remained active, filling the void left by his departure. The legacy of Khun Sa and the opium trade continues to cast a long shadow over the Golden Triangle. While heroin production has declined significantly since its peak in the 1990s, The region remains a major source of illicit drugs, including methamphetamine and synthetic opioids. The social and environmental consequences of the drug trade are still felt today. Poverty, corruption, and addiction continue to plague communities in the Golden Triangle. Deforestation and environmental degradation persist, a stark reminder of the unsustainable practices associated with opium cultivation. Efforts to address the root causes of the drug trade have been hampered by ongoing conflict, political instability, and a lack of resources. However, there are glimmers of hope. Community-based initiatives are working to provide alternative livelihoods to farmers and promote sustainable development. Governments and international organizations are collaborating to strengthen law enforcement and reduce demand for illicit drugs. Khun, the opium king of the Golden Triangle, was a complex and controversial figure. He was a ruthless warlord, a shrewd businessman, and a master manipulator who exploited the geopolitical climate of the Cold War to amass immense wealth and power. His opium empire, built on the backs of the poor and vulnerable, left an enduring legacy of social and environmental devastation. While Khun's reign has ended, the challenges posed by the drug trade persist. The Golden Triangle, scarred by decades of conflict and exploitation, is at a crossroads. The choices made today will determine whether the region can break free from the cycle of poverty, violence, and addiction, or whether it will remain trapped in the shadow of the Opium King.